Hello and welcome to the second episode of Anime Powered. I'm your host Atomic, and we are mainly going to be talking about the fact that I am salty as fuck over the anime awards this season. But first, the news. We have first, Chihayafuru, which is one of my favorite anime to ever exist, is getting a season 3, which is amazing, and I'm very, very excited. If you don't know about Chihayafuru, it's a card game anime, but not a standard card game anime to start. Chihayafuru is a shoujo anime about a real, actual Japanese game that's played both competitively and also like in your grandfather's living room. Basically, the game called Karuta is a game where an orator reads a card that has one half of a piece of poetry on it, and the other half is on the cards that are on a little like mat in front of you, and your aim is to hit the card out of the mat as fast as humanly possible. So you have to memorize the poetry, and it's basically like a little it's basically a game that's really easy but has a very, very high like level and threshold of difficulty, as in a lot of these Karuta players that are like legitimately like professional level end up like using like learning the poetry so much that the orator will get like one word out and they'll already have hit the card out of the mat. It's an incredibly insane game with a lot of mind games and a lot of, you know, organizing the cards a certain way, and basically it should not be as interesting as it is, but because there's a really good anime made by Madhouse who like does drama really, really well and does like the stupid fucking love triangle that I normally hate really, really well, and a lot of other things that would attract me to the anime, like character writing and character interaction and making a really good main female protagonist supported by a huge like varied cast. Basically, Chihayafuru is just another sort of gambling anime in the sense that it takes a very small game like Uno or Mahjong or chess or Go and turns it into this entire, you know, something that can fill a large episode's worth of content, no freaking problem. And basically, it's not only about the main female protagonist, but the people that she changes over time and the people that she meets and tries to get into this game, which is basically populated by a bunch of young kids and old men, and not a lot of teens in between. So the fact that this is getting a third season after a very, very long time is really great to me. I'm super excited, and the manga sells a lot. It's always on the top of the selling charts whenever it comes out with a new volume. And it's gotten like a live action adaptation, I think, and I think a movie. And basically it's run the gambit of being very, very, very popular. So, you know, it seems like the anime industry in general these days is going back to a lot of previous hits and ending up giving them another season or reviving them back from not having them for a super long time or giving them a spin-off or something. I mean, we have that Hoshi Engi of, I think that's what it is, of this season, which hasn't had any type of anime for like a billion years, and somehow it's getting another season coming out. Basically, I think that the industry is really receptive to retreading old ground and seeing what works and putting out another anime for it, rather than greenlighting a lot of original projects, which I'm fine with, to be honest with you, because I think that a lot of anime would warrant a revisiting, like Chihayafuru, for instance, which, I mean, I really cannot oversell it. It is an incredibly good, incredibly well-written, incredibly well-scored shoujo anime with like a side of romance, but mostly the character interaction is my favorite thing about it. So the next thing that we have is that there is going to be another manga anime adaptation that I'm kind of looking forward to looking at, which is Ahiro no Sora, which basically looks like Haikyuu except with basketball this time. Same kind of setup where a really, really short basketball player is going to go and play the basketball real, real good. And he's less than 5 feet tall, and he's going to, play hoops and jump and do a sport, which the art ends up looking really, really good. But I think that the director and the character designer and a bunch of the other, main staff are kind of like random. Like the director directed Fuka, Aho Girl, and Kankoe lately, which is kind of like really out there. Fuka was a romantic thing, Aho Girl was a comedy, and Kankoe was Kankoe. So I really don't understand how sports anime comes out of that, but Dio Media seems to know what they're doing, I guess. Fuka Yoshino Honda is also doing the character design, so maybe he called in a favor to get his to get a director on there. I don't know, but the manga launched in 2003, and there's 48 volumes out. So I guess this is one of those anime to where we really don't care if it sells. If it's animated good, great. But if it's not, the manga is going to continue to sell because holy shit, there's 48 freaking volumes of it. So it's not going to really even get to the good shit, I think, in the sense that how much of the manga can they adapt when, you only have minimum 12 episodes? So, whatever. But basically, it's one of those anime that the anime is made because the manga is a best-selling manga. So, they really don't care how it does. But it looks interesting at the very least. I like how the character designs look. I'm always down for another basketball anime. Kuroko no Basuke was not my thing. I mean, I watched a couple episodes of it, but I really couldn't get into it. It seemed to be like basketball with power levels, so maybe this is like a more down-home basketball feel. Like, I mean, even Haikyuu at his craziness is still... It's still within the realm of possibility. Like, you're not coming out here and doing like freaking flips and like, doing basketball lasers or whatever the hell happens in Kuroko. So I'm decently excited about it. So I wanted to bring it up. The next piece of news that I have is that it's not really anime news, but it's tied so close to anime that I'm going to, call it like it is and just basically say, hey, this is anime. Kizuna Ai, we all know her, we all love her. Virtual YouTube AI goddess, pink hair, plays a video game real good and screams, the one that says fuck you, her. She is getting what looks to be like some kind of television show at some point. We don't know if it's an anime. We don't know if it's like an actual show or some kind of like low budget thing like Gaki or Tokyo Encounter, where they just kind of sit around and do stuff. But it is a legitimate terrestrial TV show, and that is huge for somebody who just basically sits and plays video games and is a tiny anime girl. So that's big. And whether it is kind of a live action thing or is it just more, what she does on her channel, but with better production values because it's coming out of an actual, publishing company and someone who, we're putting this on TV rather than YouTube. I mean, I'm going to call it anime because it's 3D animated, and while it is motion tracked, there are a bunch of 3D anime that are just that, motion tracked and kind of shitty. And we call them anime, so I'm willing to believe that, Ai-chan is also anime as well. So I think it's important to note. And what with all her fashion drafters, there's a ton of them. I mean, one of her like bigger like clone hangers on is also getting a Nendo. Besides her, I think her name is Kagune Luna, and she, I don't know too much about her, but she basically does the exact same thing I does, except has a couple of less subscribers. So, and there's 10 to 20 more that I've seen floating around. So this virtual AI thing is not going away anytime soon. Basically, then we have, let's see here, we've got a huge film coming out by Mari Okada. You know her as the main writer behind Anohana and a bunch of other sad, schlocky bullshit. And I love her to death. And she is heading up her own anime film. It's called Makuya. It's Maquia, so I don't really know how to say that correctly. But basically, it is going to be an anime film about a mother and a son, and it looks like it's going to make me cry bitch tears really, really easily. So, because that kind of relationship always destroys me. It looks like to be one of those things to where the mother raises his son, it's all good and great, but then he grows up, they grow apart, they come back together, he's probably going to die. I don't know. I'm just pulling this out of my hat by looking at the PV, but the animation looks really, really good. I'm really, really excited to see where the story goes, from the small beats of it, because it looks like to be a really self-contained story. Not, her writing ends up usually having a hook of some sort, but this looks just to be just a fantasy world type deal, just to have the vistas and everything that you're looking for. And, but the main character writing is what she is strong at. So I'm really hoping that this delivers. Then we have, let's see here. Oh yes. Also, the promotional video, the PV, is out, and I would suggest everyone takes a look at it because it is really, really beautiful. And just in the PV, there are a few cuts of animation in there that make it worth it to watch the entire movie, in my opinion. Just really decent, weighty stuff that has a really nice look while not being too realistic, but still showing a lot of weight, which I think is a huge plus in my book for, everybody can do the action anime thing, you can do the sword fight, but I think that characters interacting and the push and pull of fabric and a lot of nice cuts that focus on facial expressions are my favorite types of animation. So that's it for her movie. Then we have, let's see here, Yotsuba is getting a new volume for the first time in like a year and a half, I think. That is big news because I really honestly thought that we weren't gonna get another volume for another half a year at the very least. I mean, I don't know who's out here like collecting Yotsuba, but the slow release schedule is basically killing me on it. But I don't want to yell at him because the Yotsuba is one of the best manga ever made, and take your fucking time writing it. So I just thought that was pretty neat that finally we're going to get a newer volume of Yotsuba when it's been so fucking long, but not really hiatus. It's just been a really low release schedule. So it's different than a lot of authors who take time off and just end up like piecing out for a while. The Togashi, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess you want to call Berserk is a slow release schedule, but I think that's just straight up hiatus punctuated by like a manga chapter every once in a while. I wouldn't call that. I mean, Yotsuba ends up coming out, relatively frequently, so I wouldn't call that the same deal. Then we have Zoids got a new PV, which I am completely floored by. I didn't realize that, we were on the best timeline, but I guess we are. Zoids is getting a new anime. Zoids is the shit. I'm really, really excited to see the fact that, 3D animation has come really, really far in the long gap between Zoids animes. And the big deal is that the 2D and 3D composite is going to look real sharp. It's going to look real nice, and we're going to get more Zoids models out of it, and I want to start collecting those sons of bitches right now. So I really don't care what the anime is about. I mean, I really liked Zoids back when it aired in Toonami back in the day, but I don't remember too much about it. It's been so long that the main feelings that I get when I think about Zoids is holy shit, fuck yeah, Zoids, and not too much else. Like, my clear memories of Zoids are few and far between, but there's a general good feeling there. So as far as I'm concerned, any kind of reboot or whatever the fuck they're doing with Zoids is cool in my book. I mean, the main characters look a little like kind of smaller shonen anime for me. I mean, the Zoid series that I watched had like kind of older character designs, people in their, mid-20s, but I mean, that's just a general like trend, make the kids younger so like the 9-year-olds will like to watch the show too. Then we've got another PV dropping which is Banana Fish's PV. Banana Fish, if you guys haven't been around for 20 years, is a very, very old, very, very influential BL manga. And I would be kind of like, you know, I would be kind of hesitant to label this as just a BL manga because while there is like boys love in there, it's too influential to just label it under that one kind of umbrella because it's like a worldly mystery manga with a lot of action and, very not BL looking art, especially for the time of release, which was like the late 80s, early 90s. The art honestly reminds me a lot of Otomo's stuff in the sense that the manga panels are like really, really sharp. There's an attention to detail, but not too much on each panel. Varied character designs, clean lines, action lines everywhere, and just a look that did not... Well, it separated it from the BL of the day, which was a lot of sparkles, a lot of bubbles, a lot of teen angst. I mean, we had Gundam coming out at that time, so... action BL was not out of this world, but it ended up separating itself in the sense that its content was BL punctuated with an actual plot that anybody can enjoy, which I think is somewhat superior to, this is a romance, this is what we're going to be doing, it's romance time, which, I mean, whether it's BL or not is not really my thing. I really can't get around just a straight romance. I kind of got to have something else in there to keep my attention while the romance is going on. And I feel like the romance is stronger for having a plot to base it on. Anyway, Banana Fish came out like literally 20 years ago and is getting an anime now, which is like super awesome. But the big thing about it is that the PV itself, or promotional video, is the OST is really good. The character designs are really super faithful to what the manga looks like. The production values are off the charts. It looks real good. But I must warn you that Banana Fish is not for everyone, in the sense that a lot of the action and drama and like terrible shit that happens to the characters is pretty heavy. So if you're going into this thinking, oh, it's BL and action, I'm super into that, it's legitimately like hard to stomach in some senses. That there's a lot of shit going on that is not for the faint of heart. So, but I think that the story ends up, being held up on the fact that even though there's a lot of terrible shit going on, the characters and what's happening to them is genuine feeling, rather than just kind of for a cheap pop in the middle of the book. Oh no, something terrible happened to this guy, or oh no, we have a terrible, like, horrible person doing terrible and horrible things. Don't you hate him? Like, it feels more well realized. But that's Banana Fish for you. I mean, like, when I say it's an influential boys love manga, I am serious. I mean, this shit has been around for as long as I've been alive, and I've been hearing about it. So I think I'm going to have to get off my ass and reread it because I haven't read it in about 15 years, quite literally. So after that, we have one more piece of news this week, which is, I mean, this is kind of old news in the sense that the Kickstarter ended forever ago, and the original PV of the anime ended forever ago. But basically, like Little Witch Academia, we have another Kickstarter anime that's starting out as like a 1 episode long kind of proof of concept type deal, which might go other places if they, stick the landing and people really like it. But basically, it's called Mecha Ude, and it seems to be about a kid that partners up with a big robot metal hand and fights other kids with big robot metal hands. And it looks like the shit. The freaking OST rules. The 3D really looks nice. But what really stands out about the anime is it's made by an incredibly small team on an incredibly small budget, but looks really, really, really smart. They're getting all the stops. I mean, the post-processing looks a lot like UFOtables stuff, lots of bloom and orange and blue everywhere. You know, the 3D looks really like sweet and nice. Reminds me of Bubuki Buranki's 3D in the sense that it's very, very good, especially on the stills. You really can't tell it's 3D at all, except that it would be really difficult to animate in 2D. A lot of the cuts have a look of unprofessional animation in the sense that you can tell that somebody's doing this in their house. Like it's the timing on the cuts is like really like internet level Dojin animator timing, and I really don't know how to explain this via audio, but if you look up the PV, you'll see a lot of the cuts that look not rushed, but like the timing is not something that a veteran animator would do, and I kind of like that look in the sense that it's a very different looking anime, and it looks fun. It's going to be like 25 minutes long, like its own contained OVA story, and it's basically the brainchild of like one girl and a few animators and a band that's playing the opening song and the voice actors. So I think it's going to be really cool, and I'm really excited about it. The second PV dropped really recently, so it's kind of back on the mind share again in terms of people like looking for it. And I've been like running it around in my various like haunts and like showing it off to people and being like, check this shit out, look at it, it looks so fucking cool. So I wanted to mention it here just because since it's back on the mind share again, and I'm not just kind of pulling it out of the ether, it's going to drop relatively soon in a couple of months. So get excited for that. And if another Kickstarter comes out like Little Witch Academia to where they want to do like a longer joint or they want to do like an anime, I think you would support them because their proof of concept already is really, really strong. Even though we've kind of been burned with Kickstarter anime in Under the Dog and a couple other ones that I can't even remember the name about, I think that Mecha Ude already has strong beginnings like Little Witch Academia and can become another success story of Kickstarter rather than something that everyone looks at and goes and doesn't really like it so much. So after that we have the recommendations for this week. I think overall this podcast is going to be a lot shorter just because I ripped through the news really fast, but the recommendations this week are, if you haven't watched Chihaya Furu, please go watch that. It's 2 seasons long. Get yourself ready for the anime because the anime is going to drop in about 2 seasons. I ripped through like 40 episodes of this thing and in like no time flat. You will not realize how quickly you can rip through this anime once you start it, because it's one of those things to where there's a cliffhanger every episode and you got to see what happens in the next episode. And I think it's really fun to go through, especially if you can try to watch it with a group. Or also try to watch it with someone who knows Karuta. But unlike Hikaru no Go and a couple other animes that deal with subjects that are a little bit kind of hard to get into, Karuta is easy enough to understand right out the gate because the rules are really, really simple. The big thing is the mind games part. So it's like Akagi in the sense that they use a Japanese game to facilitate a lot of thought-based bullshit, in the sense that the main part of the anime is going to be in the main character's head, kind of going, oh, what's she gonna do next? Oh my god, I'm so freaked out. And following that is always really, really fun. The other anime that I have to recommend this week, I'm kind of pulling this off my finished anime list, like out of the blue, but I don't think anybody really knows about this anime. It came out like 5 years ago. It came out to a smattering of applause and then kind of sunk down into the ether, but I think it's one of those hidden gem of anime that in another 5 years or so, somebody's going to want to talk about it in the sense that who watched this anime when it came out? Nobody did. And so I'm just going to kind of beat that person to the punch and do it right now. It is called Level E. Level E is an anime based on a manga from Togashi, the creator of Hunter x Hunter and or Yu Yu Hakusho. It's an incredibly short anime. It's 12 episodes, and it is a comedy anime about aliens. Kind of think like Men in Black type comedy, to where it's based a lot in aliens doing stupid bullshit and the main characters having to deal with the stupid bullshit. Level E is really weird in the sense that the comedy manga that it is based on, it's super old once again. And I mean, Togashi is Togashi, but it's not one of his like super well touted manga that everybody knows about, like Yu Yu Hakusho or Hunter x Hunter. It's just one of those couple of volume long, kind of do it and it's done type manga series that got an anime adaptation out of nowhere. And it's about a guy, normal ass guy who ends up having an alien shacking up with him, but the alien is an asshole. That's like the whole show. The alien is a fucking asshole, and the guy has to deal with that. And I think it's just really, really fun. It's goofy as shit. It's just it's silly, like Gintama silly, in the sense that the character interaction is strong enough to carry any kind of bullshit, stupid plot that comes out. And it's just really short and really good. And I think that it would behoove everyone to check it out. Also noting that the main OP is an absolute banger, and everybody should check it out. Let's see here. Now we have the main nugget of the podcast this week, which is Crunchyroll's Anime Awards, and the reason why I decided to cry blood for about 3 days after the Anime Awards going on. I mean, listen, we all know that it's a popularity contest. We all know that people are going to vote for the thing that they think is most sparkly and pretty, and not for the thing that's actually going to win. I've watched the Oscars. You've watched the Oscars. We all know how this thing goes. But I'm still really salty, okay? It's not like the Oscars in the sense that you have a lot of people not even watching the categories that the thing is in, like the animation category, or just awarding awards to friends of theirs, like a lot of the directors do. Or just awarding awards to, this movie takes place in Hollywood, so of course we're going to give it a ton of awards. I mean, I don't watch that many movies, so I really can't, be out here and being like, oh God, this should have won, that should have won. It's not fair. But with the Anime Awards, I can be out here and be throwing popcorn at the screen and being, the salty Sam in the back going, oh, you know what? My little art house anime should have won, even though about 5,000 people only watched it. Whatever. But basically, the My Hero Academia Awards, or the Anime Awards, it's kind of a sham. Like, we know that it's just for what is most popular at the time, but I still want to go over the categories and kind of talk about what I think should have won, why should it have won, and give basically what I think should have won, what would have been appropriate to win given the circumstances, and what actually won. So we're just going to blast through these really quickly, because a lot of them are just basically me going to be screaming about My Hero Academia. And while it is a very good anime, and I like it, and I look forward to it every week, and I like season 3, and I can't wait till season 3 comes out, it's just better Naruto when you get down to it. My Hero Academia is basically Naruto with a lot of the flaws ironed out and better character writing, and that's about it. Meanwhile, and controversially, Black Clover is if you took Naruto and just made it badder. That's my TED Talk in that respect. It's very, very simple. My Hero Academia, good Naruto, and Black Clover, bad Naruto. So let's start with Anime of the Year. Anime of the Year, let's start with the one that everyone's going to be talking about the most. I mean, we had March Comes In with like a Lion. We had Made in Abyss. We had Land of the Lustrous, My Hero Academia, Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju, and Little Witch Academia. Now, we know that Made in Abyss won, which I think is really actually kind of crazy. I didn't think Made in Abyss would hit as hard as it did. I thought that it would just kind of be a very middle of the road anime in terms of, the amount of popularity of people liking it. And I have a lot of opinions about Made in Abyss. I don't like the main creator. He kind of skeeves me out. His art skeeves me out. And for obvious reasons, if you've seen his art, I mean, the anime does a lot to iron that out in terms of making it less skeevy, but it's still kind of there, and I can't get over that. I mean, it should be right up my alley. The OST made by foreign guy, Kevin Pankin, I think is his name, was really good. It was powerful and moving, and a lot of the animation was really good, and the directing, especially in the first 3 episodes, was stellar. But I really can't get over the author and his main body of work, and the fact that it's just a little bit too skeevy for me. And I mean, if you want to argue with me, you can, but I've been in this shit way longer than a lot of you have, and I've looked at a lot of shit that I probably shouldn't have, and I like a lot of shit that I probably shouldn't have, but there's a line that I want to draw, and I think the line is it Made in Abyss. So I agree that the anime was good. I watched the whole anime. I'm not going to be out here not watching it, but I don't agree with it based on personal preference, in the sense that the main work is just not for me. And I think that it's very hard to articulate, but it's just yuck. It's yuck. It's yucky. Don't like it. And a lot of the bigger emotional hits, I think could have been done better if they were directed a little bit better. But basically, Made in Abyss deserves it on a production level, but on a story level, I don't think so. Especially considering that it kind of peters off past episode 11, because mainly the manga still has a lot to go and they had to cut it off somewhere. So if I were to give it to an anime, it would be a toss-up between 3 of them. I'm so really surprised that My Hero Academia didn't win. That kind of blew me away a little bit, but it would be between March Comes In Like a Lion, Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju, and Little Witch Academia. Little Witch Academia probably should have won. I'm going to be right out there and say it. It's one of the most perfect anime that I think that everybody could get into. It's, for all intents and purposes, G-ish rated. The animation is great and consistent through each episode. Every episode is a looker. It's at least an 8 out of 10 in terms of production values. Some episodes going farther. The story is good and cute. It's fucking Harry Potter. But there's lots more cute girls this time. You really can't go wrong with it. I love Trigger and their foray into a very easily accessible anime for first-time anime watchers. I mean, this shit could air on Disney and nobody would blink an eye. And I think that's really strong to come out with for an anime. It defied all odds and did really well on Kickstarter multiple times. It got its own anime and Netflix picked it up. I mean, this is like the little anime that could. And, I'm a hopeless Trigger fangirl, so my perceptions are a little bit biased maybe, but I think that Little Witch has a lot of showing of what anime can aspire to be and who anime could be out there and touch, in the sense that everyone can come out and enjoy Little Witch Academia, and they don't have to look at something as dubious as Made in Abyss to do it. Then we have March Comes In with a lot. March, if I fuck this up one more time, I swear to God. March Comes In Like a Lion, which I know that not a lot of you are watching. It has to do with uh, another Japanese game that's kind of hard to play, but I think that the character drama carries the anime so fucking far. Shaft really is out here doing a great pageantry job adapting the shit out of this manga. And if you guys aren't watching based on that, it might be a little bit too deep for you to understand in terms of the gameplay aspect. I think that you can healthily ignore a lot of the gameplay straight out to just watch it for how moving the anime is and how great the adaptation is, because not only is the manga an award-winning manga, but Shaft is out here adapting it basically beat for beat and making a lot of the manga pages punch harder just based on the fact that they're animated and voice acted and very accurately portrayed. It's one of those things that, you kind of have to jump in on, and it's going to take you a little while to catch up, but I think it's really worth it in what it's coming out to show, which the main storyline is about family. It's about, coming together after grief. It's about, everybody can change and everybody doesn't have to be the same person that they always have been. And it's an anime about depression. It's an anime about death. And it's an anime about people coming together to form, connections outside of, normal family ties. And I think that's a really strong background to begin an anime with. The author, and I cannot remember her name for the life of me right now, also drew Honey and Clover, which is another great anime. And she really, really, really is putting her best out with this particular manga, and Shaft is really, really, really doing well adapting it. I didn't think that they would be a good pick for this anime when I started, but their directorial quirks and their visuals really work well with a lot of the dreamlike and emotion-based visuals that the anime tends to show off. Every scene looks different. All the panels are very well done in the manga. A lot of them have different borders and different page layouts and everything. And I think Shaft's crazy visuals end up showing off this really well with the anime. I also want to, give a nod out to the Land of the Lustrous, which I really enjoyed, but I can understand why it wouldn't be anime of the year. I get it. And then of course Showa Genroku, which is one of the best anime to come out in the past 10 years, but not a lot of people are going to watch it because, once again, very hard to understand Japanese custom. But holy shit, go watch it. Oh my god, please watch this anime. I'm going to shake you like a doll to get you to watch this anime. You've probably heard a bunch of, anime YouTubers talking about how great this thing is. They're not overblowing it. They know what they're talking about with this one. I've done my own write-ups about the show. You can go look on My Anime List or Wikipedia to go see what it's about. I'm not going to give you a whole rundown right now, but basically, suffice to say that Studio Dean, which basically has been on my shit list for the past 10 years or so, is subsequently off my shit list for this anime. They have upgraded themselves completely off my shit list because of this anime. That is huge. If Genon came out here and did something like Showa Genroku, they would also be off my shit list. And if you don't know about Studio Dean, that's another one that you can go look up, but basically they had proceeded to run themselves into the ground with bad anime adaptations and terrible production values for a very, very long time. Showa Genroku is none of those things. It is basically everything that I love about anime as a medium, put together in one show, and I can't gush enough about it. So to continue on, we have Manga of the Year, which I really was interested in seeing because it was a race. The Manga of the Year actually had some really good picks in it. And once again, Showa Genroku shows up. That's another one, manga is as good as the anime in a lot of respects. I think the anime, just because the content of the manga is about the spoken word ends up winning out just because you have voice actors acting, and you don't have to imagine what they're saying. You can hear it. But other than that, we have Golden Kamuy, which is another manga that I think is one of the best mangas out right now. I cannot wait for the anime adaptation. It is absolutely insane. You heard me talking about it last podcast. If you're not reading it, you're doing something wrong, basically. It's one of those ones that everybody should, stand up and take a look and listen at basically something going on that we're going to probably be talking about for the next decade after it's done. Then we have My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, which is the one that actually won, and I agree that it should win. My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness hit really, really close to home, and even if you're not like a young girl in Japan who is a lesbian, I think that a lot of her personal thoughts and biographical interludes hit home with our generation, unlike pretty much anything else. It is an incredibly depressing, incredibly sad, but still hopeful look into a young woman's life, dealing with the fact, coming to terms with the fact that she's a lesbian, and coming to terms with the fact that she, does not have her shit together. And it does not pull any punches. It is incredibly hard to read, in the sense that if you're even kind of close to anything that she's experiencing, you're going to have to put down the manga for a little while and go take a walk and go, breathe in and out for a little while. The other ones, we have Delicious in Dungeon. It's an excellent manga with a really great hook that, everybody can read. The art's great. The characters are great. The story's great. It's one of those manga that it deserves to be on the top of, Amazon's bestseller list. It deserves, every award that it's going to get. When are we going to get an anime? Is what I want to say. Please let us get an anime really soon, because pretty much every other manga on the top of the anime and manga rankings chart has gotten an anime at this point, and this one subsequently has not, despite being an award winner. Come on, give me an anime. Let's go. Please, 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 please. And then we have In This Corner of the World, which I have not watched the movie of that yet, but this is the manga adaptation of it. I know that it's very sad and very well animated, but I don't know too much else about it. And of course, My Brother's Husband, which is another, LGBT look into, Japanese practices and thought processes therein. That's another one that I've read most of it, but I don't think I finished it. But it's still very, very good. It's another one of those that it deserves, all the praise that it gets, because it's an incredibly realist look into family ties and various character drama. Then we have Best Action. I mean, obviously I believe My Hero Academia won. I actually am not yeah, My Hero Academia won. This is one of those ones that is really up to personal taste, but My Hero Academia overall does not look as good as a lot of these shows. It has higher highs in the sense that you can see that the money got injected from season 1 to season 2. They got a bunch of really good animators on that I love to death, but I think that Land of the Lustrous and Kekai Sensen and even freaking Mobile Suit Gundam have better action overall, but once again, you're not going to change these people's mind with that kind of thing. Especially Land of the Lustrous should have gotten at least a nod or a special, side award or something like that, because 3D action is way different than 2D action, and they really, really did well with what they were handed with, having to do things in 3D. But, I'm not going to cry over it. Best Drama, which was Magus Bride. Magus Bride is really good. I really like Magus Bride, but I don't want to call it a drama. I mean, there's a lot of sad shit in there, but I think it fits more as like a drama fantasy. In terms of like legitimate drama, March Comes and Showa Genroku are legitimate dramas, and both I think are more powerful in what they are doing. I would, give a nod to Akka because I liked it, but I know that not a lot of people watched it. So, once again, whatever. But I'm surprised that Made in Abyss did not win. And Magus Bride is good. It's a very solid, once again, one of those series that a lot of people can pick up if they don't like anime. And Crunchyroll was really, really pushing it for a very long time. So I'm not surprised that it's on the top of the popularity poll. Best comedy, pretty much everything on this list was robbed. Kobayashi, I mean, I liked it. It's a good comedy. It's fun. I know that it was super, like, everybody was super into, anime discourse over it. I'm not going to get into that, but I liked it, basically. And I think that it's worth a watch just based on the fact that it changes a lot about the manga and smooths a lot of the manga's hard edges, quite literally, to make a very, like, it's a very genuine production, and it reminds me of Nichijou, and I miss Nichijou, so I'm gonna feel a lot more strongly about it, and a lot of the side characters are really great in Kobayashi, but it's not best comedy. It has comedy elements, but I wouldn't call it a straight up comedy. Osamatsu-san is a straight up comedy. Little Witch Academia is also not a comedy, but it's comedic. It's comedically timed, and a lot of the episodes are comedic in nature. So I would call it like an action comedy fantasy adventure, like one of those. But it's, once again, doesn't really fit in the category, so I don't know why it's here. But I think Konosuba should have won because it is the best fucking isekai I've probably ever watched. It is absolutely hilarious. If you watched any isekai, I would give Konosuba a watch. Basically, it's the standard isekai plot, but, lambasted and lampooned with smart character writing and very, very good voice acting. Like, basically phenomenal voice acting. To the point where people who don't speak Japanese, constantly mention the fact of how good the voices are because even they can tell. It's one of those series that I think is going to keep going for a long time because it does really, really well in the Blu-ray rankings every time it comes out. And even if the studio is not interested in making another season, they will come back to it. So if you haven't watched Konosuba yet, I would watch it and kind of wait around for season 3 to eventually be announced like everybody else. It's doofy, it's raunchy, but I think it has a lot of weird heart in it, in the sense that the characters feel like real people and feel like real assholes. Basically, it's always sunny in a fantasy world is how I would try to sell Konosuba to you, in the sense that all these characters don't deserve a lot of good things coming to them, especially a few notable main characters. But you want to watch them succeed because you end up liking them just based on the fact that they're fucking assholes. And you want to see them move around this fantasy world and get into trouble, basically. Then we have the best slice of life, which, once again, this is up to taste big time because it's going to, basically slice of life has been real good these past couple seasons, and it was a legitimate fight in this sense. I mean, we all heard of MMO Junkie's recent, bad press, in the sense that the director is a fucking asshole, and not like the good kind of asshole, but the actual kind of go die in a fire asshole. But I would not put MMO Junkie out of the race just based on that, because I mean, people have brought this up before, but it's just the director, and it's not the creator of the actual manga or the production team or a bunch of people that work on it. Fault the director is an asshole. So I would think that MMO Junkie gets a pass on the sense that it's not like the main author of the work is a weirdo and I don't like him, like with Made in Abyss. So, mainly, Girls Last Tour ended up winning this one, and I'm really surprised and excited because that's one of those ones that I didn't think a lot of people had watched, or the people who have watched it maybe didn't like it because it's phrased a little differently than the standard slice of life. Um, Girls Last Tour is a slice of life, but the life that the slice is taking out of is terrible. The life that these girls are living currently is the life of after terrible world wars and basically the eventual total death of humanity. And while this is depressing, the antics of the girls make it weirdly like heartening to watch. And it's not your standard slice of life in that it's supposed to be comfy. This one's not comfy, it's sad comfy. And I think that the dissonant tone might have turned a lot of people off of it, but I ended up really, really, really enjoying it when it was airing. So I'm glad that a lot of people did too and voted it as best slice of life over like Kimono Friends, which I thought was going to sweep the popular vote because holy shit, it's Kimono Friends and people can vote multiple times in this award. So like I thought that was going to win it. Then we have the best continuing series, which once again, March comes in with a line, blah, 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 all out. Naruto, for some reason, like, I mean, March comes in with a line, finally won something. And I'm really, really surprised because Dragon Ball Super, Detective Conan, and Naruto are on here, and they didn't win. Like, holy shit, those are real big, 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 huge series with a lot of people watching them. But I mean, you know, I guess it ended up winning out in the sense that people realized that it's a tighter series than Dragon Ball Super or Detective Conan or Naruto Shippuden, where it does not have 80,000 fucking episodes to watch. You know, you can watch March Comes in about a week if you try hard. You're not going to watch all of Naruto in a week. Now we come to the hardest category in the list, which is Best Animation. I have about a bucket worth of salt to dump out on this one before I begin. But first of all, I want to just note that why is there a movie in Best Animations category? That does not seem fair. It doesn't seem like it should count because, of course, a movie is going to have better animation than a TV series made with a TV budget with TV time constraints. I mean, even when you have KyoAni and Trigger out here putting out their best and doing a real good job, you know, A Silent Voice is gonna look better just because it's shorter, had a longer production schedule, and had a movie production schedule. So why is it on here? And then it didn't even win, which is even like crazier in my opinion, because it does look real good under a lot of those post-processing effects and chromatic aberration. Things that I like in movies, it makes it look real good and real pretty, and UFO kind of pioneered that really heavy post-processing, but with A Silent Voice, the chromatic aberration ends up making me a little dizzy sometimes because it's really, really strong. But it's still really good, a really good and really moving movie if you haven't watched it. So we're just going to put A Silent Voice to the side because it shouldn't be in this category and move on to, you know, My Hero Academia, which won, which, I mean, it got robbed, but it didn't get robbed as hard as Mob Psycho 100 did last year when it matched up with Yuri on Ice. I mean, I've written, you know, probably 14 pages on why that's wrong. But I mean, at least My Hero Academia looks really, really good in its highs and very, very passable in its lows, which is more than can be said with Yuri on Ice, which looked really, really good for about 6 or 7 cuts and then had a lot of problems on pretty much every other one of its cuts. But I still like the anime anyway. With My Hero Academia, I mean, we all want to point out how balls to the wall the Todoroki Midoriya fight was. It ruled. I know it ruled. It fucking ruled. It was like 3 minutes of the best fucking shit on TV. And I agree with you. But I think that Best Animation should be a category that takes into effect how the entire show looks overall. And if we're going to talk like that, it would be Little Witch Academia, which ended up looking really, really, really good for like 95% of its airtime. And you really can't get much better than that. Trigger just put out a product that anybody would be happy to show on any platform at any time to show off what good animation looks like. Where you kind of got to pick and choose My Hero Academia's best cuts. I also want to show off Land of the Lustrous again, which their animation was really, really good. They got a big nuance with the 3D animation that hasn't been done before, in my opinion. I think that a lot of 3D animation ends up looking janky, like Knights of Sidonia and even Bubuki Riranki. The 3D animation wasn't there yet, but I think that Land of the Lustrous really hit a lot of personal highs in terms of what 3D animation, especially 3D TV animation, can do. And I think that it should have gotten a nod for best animation or runner-up prize or something like that. And when I'm talking about it, Ms. Kobayashi, I mean, the animation was good. It was KyoAni, but it was like KyoAni's C team. And they're okay, but it was clear that a lot of the main busters of the, animation house were off working on Violet Evergarden or various other movie projects. And it kind of shows because Kobayashi just looked nice when normal KyoAni productions like bust out everyone for their total animation quality per season. Hero of the Year, I'm just going to bypass it because, of course, Deku won. Like, holy shit, why do we even have this category? It should be the My Hero Academia category. Villain of the Year, once again, we're going to just bypass it because, I mean, if you want to be real here, Stain's a real good villain. He actually has a really good hook going on with him, but I think that Tanya should have won just based on the fact that having an anime based around the villain's perspective and the villain acts like a real-ass villain is an interesting hook, and props for the anime making her look like a little goblin when an anime about a 10-year-old girl who is basically like a little Hitler would normally appeal to the male fan base that I want to die in a fire, but Tanya looks so much like a gremlin that I think a lot of them got scared off, which is great because I think the anime has a lot going on in terms of like story stuff that does not involve, look how cute this little girl is, because she's not cute. She's like a little goblin, and that's great. Best opening, this is entirely, by personal preference, so I'm not even gonna check it out. Best, and I mean, there was some real powerful openings this year. Here, for the Ancient Magus' Bride was probably one of the least favorite openings for mine, because the visuals were a slideshow and there wasn't too much going on in terms of really good opening visuals, but the song slapped. So I will allow it to be on this list just based on that. Let's see here. And Ima Awa no Shinigami probably was the best opening in terms of visuals and total, presentation in my opinion, but this is one of those ones where I'm not even gonna be like, fuck you, fight me, because it's so a personal preference. The best ending, meanwhile, was really a fight. We have probably 2 or 3 right off the bat that I really couldn't fight against in terms of people picking. Step Up Love by Daoko and Yasuyuki Okamura slapped, and I mean, it's no sugar song to Bitter Step, but that is once in a lifetime ending. Like that ending single-handedly sold Kekai Sensen to me, and Kekai Sensen fucking rules. So, if you haven't seen that ending, go check it out. It's really good. And Step Up Love is almost as good. And that's awesome, because I didn't think that there would even be a closeness in terms of the next ending for Kekai Sensen, and what held a candle to the original ending. Also, Kirameku Hamabe for Land of the Lustresses, Edie was like really moving and nice. The visuals were beautiful. And Kafune by Brian the Sun is a really visually stunning anime ending that, you know, the colored pencils and crowns look is always a real nice touch that Shaft adds to a lot of their productions. And I think that getting different ending looks for endings, you know, like that look different than the anime itself, is always super fun to me. Also, recovery of an MMO Junkies ending is very simple, but I think it's super effective and just this is a very sweet and nice ending. So once again, this is an Ishukan communication, of course, is just super cute. I mean, what am I going to say there? Best boy, once again, I'm not going to start fighting with anybody. I think that Kazuma should have won, even though he's a shithead, but he's my shithead. You know, Todoroki winning rather than Deku is weird, but fine. I mean, I like him, but in my head, I call him better Sasuke, so, you know, whatever. I mean, if we're going to be honest here, you know, we have Kachan and Todoroki, and they're like both half of Sasuke, and they're both better than Sasuke. So, good for them. And then Best Girl. Best Girl was a legitimate fight. And I would love to be like behind the curtain and see how those polling, you know, boxes were completely stuffed full of ballots for certain girls. But I cannot believe that Serval didn't win. I'm deeply surprised. And then with My Hero Academia, Suyu didn't win, which, oh my god, who are you people, and get out of my house. But once again, this is personal opinion. Then we have Best Film, where, you know, A Silent Voice should have been originally and is here now. I actually forget who won Best Film. Oh, Your Name, of course. Oh my god, why did I even forget? Of course, Your Name was going to win. I think it's a really good film. I have my personal problems with the film. I think Shinkai's work ends up having a lot of plot holes, and Your Name probably has the least amount of plot holes of all his films, so that's good. But the visuals and overall delivery of basically what is anime Freaky Friday, you know, made me cry like a bitch. So I really can't argue with the best film moniker. I think that Silent Voice was probably better than Your Name. I like the story better, but that's a personal preference. Best CGI honestly should have went to Kato the Right Answer. Kato the Right Answer is a 10 out of 10 anime until basically right near the end, and then it shits the bed. And I'm really, really sad because the CGI for the anime was really well done, and in terms of what they were depicting with the CGI, I don't think it could have been done any other way than to use CGI. And that's one of the best selling points for CGI in anime that I can possibly put out. If you cannot depict the object that you want to depict in 2 dimensions, then you have to do something else. And I think that Kato's stiff character models were okay, but the 2D and 3D composite ended up being a little weird, which, like, you could see who was going to be an important character because they had a 3D model, and the ones who weren't important characters were 2D animated, which was really weird to look at, actually. But I think overall, Kato's general look and what they were doing with it was really strong. And pretty much nobody is going to watch Kato the Right Answer anyway, so it should have gotten an award just because it probably would have gotten like 10 or 20 people to watch the anime, which I think I think you should watch the anime just based on the fact that it's going to be a teaching anime that I'm going to use on what to do right with an anime and what to do fucking completely wrong with an anime for a long time to come. Because I was so close to like calling this like, holy shit, 9 or 10 out of 10. Watch this anime every fucking year for the rest of your life. But it shit the bed so hard near the end that I almost just want to like strike the end from my mind and call it like, oh, it was never finished. I don't remember what happened at the end. It must have been good. Land of the Lustrous obviously was the winner of Best CGI, and I think it really deserves it. It was super strong. If you've watched any of the behind the scenes for the anime, it is deceptively really difficult to animate and to render, especially a lot of the jewel-like textures. There's tons of layers and tons of rendering work and tons of like, they ended up animating a lot of the action scenes by hand first and then superimposing the CGI over the animation. So you get this really neat like step timing that ends up using like 2D animation techniques and a lot of squashing and stretching of the 3D models to achieve a like 2.5D animation look. And where this is shown off most is probably Diamond's like running sequence in one of the early episodes, which you've probably seen posted around because it's genuinely moving and beautiful, but also a really great example of what you can do right with CGI animation. And I think that Land of the Lustrous, once again, was one of those projects that, while I would have liked to see it in 2D, I think that it was one of the most good picks for what to do in 3D animation. Because of just its subject matter and its backgrounds and how its characters look. I mean, they are very samey looking characters. So in terms of making 3D models, it's a very easy 3D model to make. And I think that the author obviously did this on purpose for, a visual aesthetic. And also they're not really actually people and they're just rocks. So, basically this was a dream to pick for a 3D animation project just because of how it looks and how it feels. But I think that they knocked it out of the park with how it looks and how it feels, especially in terms of the original manga art, which ends up looking incredibly different than a lot of other manga art that's out. It has a very interesting like Art Deco with deep inks and incredible page layouts and just beautiful, Eastern Indo style like friezes, and it looks so different than anything else on the market today. And I think that the 3D animation just ends up showing off its better points. So that's basically it for the Anime Awards. It was kind of a shit show, and I'm really upset with a lot of the choices, but it's better than last year. It's basically my final say on the matter. We have questions left, and I think that's it for this week. I'll be able to get this out in like under an hour and 15 minutes, it looks like, after I'm done with the questions, which is real good. We only have a couple of questions this week, which is fine. There are like, I'm going to do like 2 just to end it kind of quickly. So the first question is Anonymous sends in, if you watched it, what did you end up thinking of Shoujo Shumatsu Ryoko, which is Girl's Last Tour? I keep hearing that the story and writing were great, but I'm having a hell of a time getting past the fact that one of the girls always looks like her face is melting. I understand the face melt problem, but I ended up watching and loving Hidamari's sketch, which has a very similar face melt problem. And the short answer is you get over it. The artist's art is very similar to the anime's art. It's very loose, but with a weird attention to detail of backgrounds that I really like. The girls are endearing enough to where their blobby faces end up being super endearing as well. I think that blobby faces are a side effect of kind of a moe genre of like big blobby faces end up reminding you of a baby, and that is cute. But the artist's art is kind of esoterically cute, in the sense that it doesn't like it's too simple to be super moe. It ends up just being her style, and I think it really works for the show because it contrasts the girls, which are these cute, blobby, almost abomination looking, adorable, tiny baby girls, with a very dark, detailed, dank hellscape of post-humanity, what looks like Japan, but we're not sure. Basically, I would recommend with this particular anime to just try to suck it up if you can, because the story and the general character interaction is as such where they could look like, bugs, and I would be like, yeah, give it to me. If it's a personal preference with you, I really can't change your mind, but I think that the story and the type of slice of life that I talked about that it is powerful enough to overlook something that you think might be weird about the art, especially in the sense that in motion it ends up looking a lot better. The entire anime is animated very well, and the voice acting is really convincing, and I think that it's interesting enough to really give it a look if you want. The second question and final question we have for the evening, because I want to cut this off, I'm getting real tired, is from Mozai. And Mozai asks, are there educational anime as there are educational manga? I know that there's manga for most mundane topics like how male teens can dress themselves better, and I have a few issues of how to Ubuntu Linux manga. I also know a huge fraction of anime is adapted from manga, so I wonder if some of the teachable manga also ascended to video. This is easy to answer. There are a lot of teachable manga that ascended to video format. Manga end up having a lot more niche subjects being covered because to publish a manga is easier than to get an anime done. The anime that end up getting done for these types of teachable manga end up grabbing the mangas that are standout in their teachable subject. One of my favorite teachable manga is probably Moyasimon, which is about a college student that ends up learning about microbial life and microbes and viruses and the science behind these microbes and what they do and how microbes and various levels of fermentation help us in the world via, learning about bacterial infection, learning how alcohol is made, learning how things like pickles and pickled seals are made, and various other topics. And how fermentation basically is a staple of both humanity and cuisine, but also humanity in general, because without fermentation, we wouldn't be able to live. This is a very scientifically dense manga that ended up getting adapted twice, one very, very long time ago and one about 5 years ago, which were basically direct sequels. But there are tons of other anime, and for the life of me, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I think the biggest genre of anime that ends up getting adapted are the cooking animes. There are a bunch of them, and I will fall for them every single time, because teaching somebody to cook is something that anybody can start and anybody can be interested in, and you can base a lot of a story off of what's the dish for this week? How do we prepare this dish? Who do we have to please in giving this dish to? These are all really simple plot points, and you can build a story around them very easily. But there's no end to teachable anime, and there's no end to teachable manga. And a lot of anime and manga will end up having teachable moments, just because I think that a lot of viewers are very interested in the background and the science of the particular thing that they're talking about at this time. I mean, even JoJo's Bizarre Adventure puts the action battle on pause to tell you about, like, that squirrel over there and why it's important a lot of the time. Um, I think that any anime that has a super stoked narrator uh, screaming at me about something important about animals is an anime that I'm going to watch. And this is why I'm still watching Killing Bites, even though I hate it. um, so that's basically it. Thank you for listening to the second episode of my podcast. I hope that I'm doing a little bit better in terms of making it flow better and maybe shaving down the length. I'm going to try to shoot for under an hour next week. I already shaved about a half an hour off of it. It just kind of depends on what the topic is of this week. But since this is basically like not very scripted, off the cuff blog type podcast, I know that it will be a little bit different every week for how what happens and how much time I have to record, basically. I'm glad you listened to it, and if you have any questions to send to me, you can send them to my blog at atomicpowered.tumblr.com. The ask box is always open for questions for the podcast. I put this up on YouTube and SoundCloud. YouTube first and SoundCloud probably at a later time because I have sometimes problems with their uploading and everything like that. But I hope you guys like it, and I hope that I'm good background noise for when you're doing something else, which is what I use podcasts for, and I hope that you do too. Thanks, and have a good night.